Holy crap, this is bad. Anthony Lionheart Smith, the former light heavyweight title challenger, on paper the greatest UFC fighter of all time, Mr. Curl Up into an Armadillo and get TKO'd himself, has been arrested on 3 separate felony charges, and he is facing up to 26 years in prison. I was not expecting to wake up to this. Holy crap. You go and you just make your coffee, you get your breakfast, and Anthony Smith has been arrested. The former UFC fighter, the man who could have beat Jon Jones. People forget, before Aljamain Sterling took that knee from Peter Yan and got disqualified and became champ, Anthony Smith could have done the same thing. Anthony Smith could have been the former light heavyweight champion of the world if he just took that knee and said, you know what, fuck it, I'm done. They would have DQ'd Jones. He would have been champ. I think that's one thing that really bothers him, to be honest with you. But that's a digression. The former light heavyweight title challenger could have been champ Anthony Smith. He's just been arrested on 3 felony charges: attempted first-degree domestic assault, which is a class 2 felony, terroristic threats, and first-degree false imprisonment. From my research and from what I'm seeing online, Mr. Armadillo himself, Mr. Curl Up into a Ball, No Heart Smith, it was a birthday party. He had a few drinks with his family around, and he's gone ahead and he shot himself in the arm. And as soon as he was discharged from the hospital, the police went ahead and they arrested him and they've charged him. And he's facing these charges. These charges are up to 26 years in prison. We might never see this guy walking free, curling up into a ball ever again. Anthony Smith, obviously he retired from the UFC, but he's still working as a desk analyst. Quite actively, I believe. He had a fight recently. Where I believe he blacked out his entire arm. He had a blackout tattoo on his arm and he won that fight. That's what I recall seeing a couple months ago. He's been active. He's been in the scene. He has the podcast with Michael Bisping. He's a big part of MMA culture, the MMA community, the MMA media space. He's a guy that's pretty lucid on the mic. Despite all the damage he's taken, he's quite articulate. He can still articulate himself quite well. He's quite well spoken. He's a good analyst. He'd be a good commentator. We see him quite frequently. And he's one of those guys that, realistically, in the past, there's been some warning signs, but he hasn't been on the same level as like Tony Ferguson or Conor McGregor or even Dustin Poirier, where we were worried about this guy going on a rampage and just being a menace to society. Like, out of all the UFC fighters that could have done this, Anthony Smith was probably like number 15, number 20 on the list of likeliness to do this. And there we go. You never know what can happen in this game. It's a brutal sport. These guys get the shit beaten out of them. They have permanent, long-lasting brain damage. Just wait 50 years until these guys die and the scientists and the doctors are analyzing their brains. The UFC is going to get sued to oblivion when people realize the damage that these guys are taking and the serious issues that are occurring because of it as a result of the UFC and as a result of them fighting under their organization and not being compensated very well for it. The UFC is in a world of trouble. This is a nightmare PR issue for both the UFC and Anthony Smith. His career is over. His life is pretty much over. He might go to jail for the next 20 years. What else are we seeing here? The complaint alleges the offenses occurred on July 26, 2026, which is Anthony Lionheart Smith's birthday. Like I said, I'm hypothesizing. I'm a guy on the internet. I'm an idiot on the internet. Don't sue me. I have like 3 subscribers. By the way, if you wouldn't mind subscribing, that would be nice. I appreciate it. But yeah, this guy on the internet right here is alleging that on his birthday, he had some drinks with his family. The people have left. Maybe his missus leg kicked him and he got flashbacks to Ming Yang Jiang and he started curling up into a ball. And then he thought, you know what, fuck this, I don't like this. He got up, he starts beating on his missus and she calls the police and he threatens to shoot himself. And he does. He shot himself in the arm. That's what the police report is saying. He shot himself in the arm. You can read it above. I'll try and put some screenshots up here. The police have been called. He's been detained. He's taken to hospital. And then he's arrested after that. Absolutely insane work from Anthony Smith. Just baffling, man. And, this is a sad situation. I'm making jokes here because Anthony Smith is To be honest with you, before this situation, he was an unlikable douchebag. And after it, he's an even more unlikable potential woman beater. I'm making jokes because, he's gone ahead and he's talked so much shit throughout his career. He's talked so much shit about everyone, claiming they're this and that, saying he's better than people, saying on paper he's the greatest of all time. So he deserves a bit of this flack for just that, let alone all the crap that he's gone ahead and done now on one fateful night in Nebraska. But in all seriousness, this is a massive issue, and it speaks volumes to the issues within the UFC, because 10, 20 years from now, when all these guys are retiring, we are going to be seeing a lot more issues coming out from UFC fighters. We are going to see a lot more issues. Not all of them are God-fearing family men like Charles Oliveira and like Max Holloway and like Islam Makhachev. Some of them are just fucking psychopaths who have extreme trauma from their childhood and from their teen years. They've gone into MMA because it's kind of fixed that for them. And then they've taken a huge amount of damage throughout their careers, which has affected their aggression management, their critical thinking skills, their emotional regulation, everything under the sun. Mental health issues have been made worse. Alcoholism and addiction has been made worse. All through chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE, has made this worse for them. They're carrying all these burdens from their childhood, and it's been made worse by getting hit and kicked in the head for 20 years. And then they're retired with nothing to do, with no purpose. Even if they've made enough money to not have to work a regular job, they're still struggling with purpose. We see that with Dustin Poirier. They're still struggling with meaning because nothing can fill the high that fighting in front of a massive audience gave them. So then they just start turning to alcohol. They start turning to drugs. Their anger management, their critical thinking skills are out the window, and they end up doing crazy shit to people they love and to random people on the streets. Jon Jones, Conor McGregor. We see this all the time. Every single day, there's probably a UFC fighter, probably just not as high profile. There's probably an MMA fighter, a retired boxer that's going out there, that's going down to the pub, getting hammered and trying to beat up on the guy next to him, or going home and beating up on his wife. And it's not talked about. It's not talked about because they're not massive names. But this is probably and likely happening all the time as a result of CTE, brain damage, and quite frankly, it's the UFC's fault. It's the UFC's fault. They don't pay these guys enough. They're not giving them the medical treatment that they need to be safe after a career of fighting. And they're just leaving these guys to their own devices. And we see what happens. Anthony Smith is just the latest in a long line, and which will be a very long line, of dangerous, dangerous men out there with CTE, with brain damage, who are just going to be absolute menaces to society. So that's my breakdown. Absolutely insane. I'm reading here, they're glazing him a little bit, but he was a fucking shit fighter. Smith compiled a 38-22 professional MMA record. That's pretty grim. A record that included multiple UFC Light Heavyweight title eliminator bouts. He retired from mixed martial arts earlier this year following his final UFC appearance as one of the greatest middleweights and light heavyweights of his generation. I don't know who wrote this fucking HTV article, but that's a bit incorrect. He was a journeyman. He challenged for the title. Like I said, he could have won the title if he took the knee against Jon Jones and said, that was an illegal move. I can't continue to fight. You should disqualify this guy. He could have been the champ. In any case, his name is etched in history as a title challenger. 0.001% of MMA fighters get to that level. He's a top level dude, right? People shit on him. He was shit. He is shit. He's not a good fighter, but he still managed to rise to the top through hard work, through dedication. And at the end of his career, he's gone off the deep end. He's gone off the deep end. He's talked about in interviews before about how he's worried about brain damage, about how he's worried about the issues that it may cause him. Yet he continues to fight and did continue to fight long after his prime was over. And we see today the damage that has done. Obviously, there's probably some issues before the brain damage, but by no means has the brain damage made it better. It's made it 10 times worse. And he's getting himself into a world of trouble. Terroristic threats, false imprisonment, beating up on his wife, shooting himself in the fucking arm. We could have been talking about Anthony Smith having shot himself in the head in front of his wife and kids today. This could have been a lot worse. I hope his family's okay. And again, this is all alleged. This is innocent until proven guilty. This is just what I'm reading. This is just what I'm seeing online and what I'm speculating about. We can joke all we want about Anthony Smith. He was a bit of a laughable character when he was in the UFC. But this is just sad. If you're not sad for him, fair enough. You don't want to be sad for this wife-beating piece of shit, allegedly. This alleged wife-beating piece of shit. Be sad for his family. Be sad for his wife. Be sad for his kids that are going to have to navigate through this. And it's not going to get better. Even if this guy gets out, he mends things with his family. You know, his wife forgives him. His kids forgive him. He stops drinking, maybe. That's maybe an issue. It's not going to get better. We know how the brain works. We know how neurodegenerative diseases like CTE work. You don't get better after them. They get progressively worse. And he's a young man right now. He's 38. In terms of the UFC, that's old. But in terms of a life, if you're averaging about 80 years, he's a young man. He's got about half of his life left. He's got a huge amount to live. And if he's struggling like this now, I hate to wonder. I hate to think what is next for him, and I hate to think what could be next for him in the future. Deeply saddening. And on paper, this is funny, but in reality, this is fucking depressing. This is sad as fuck. And I really hope things do get better for Smith. You know, I hope things get better for his family. Most of all, I hope things get better for his family. But yeah, that's my breakdown. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. His wife alleges, the complainant, who's probably his wife, accuses Smith of attempting to commit first-degree domestic assault by taking a substantial step towards causing serious bodily injury. Prosecutors also allege Smith threatened to commit a crime of violence with the intent to terrorize the alleged victim and knowingly restrained or abducted her under terrorizing circumstances that exposed her to the risk of serious bodily injury. And he's making his court appearance this Wednesday. Just insane. Absolutely insane. Anthony Smith. Stop calling this guy Lionheart. Stop calling this guy Lionheart, because in the UFC he didn't live up to that nickname. And outside of the UFC he's certainly not living up to his nickname. Curled up in a ball probably. He probably shot himself in the arm and was curled up in a ball afterwards. Insane work from Anthony Smith. Let me know what you guys think about this situation in the comments below. Deeply saddening, and I think we're going to see a lot more of this come out with UFC fighters in the future. But yeah, like and subscribe. This is fucking depressing. Jesus Christ. Much love. See you boys later.